Welcome back to the Burnt Popcorn Channel. I'm your host today, Dr. Till, as I take you on a dive into the deepest, darkest, and dumbest corners of Hollywood award culture. Today we're talking about a film that has earned more nominations than Titanic or Return of the King, and has even stole a Golden Globe from Wicked. That's right, we're talking about the Netflix trans sicario opera,
Emilia Perez.
Now, this movie hit the internet hard when a viral clip of one of its songs started making its rounds on social media, causing quite the stir. Take a look.
Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
Vaginoplasty. Other words that end with plasty. Yeah. Yes, that was real. Did I already mention this movie has 13 Oscar nominations and a Golden Globe? Matter of fact, if you go to the movie's IMDb page, the awards for this film are a mile long. I'm talking BAFTAs, Cannes Film Festival, DGA Awards. Hell, the Kansas City Film Critics Circle awarded him Best Foreign Film. This movie's neither Best Foreign nor Film. Pretty sure it was shot on digital, not made by Mexicans, and it sucks. So I don't know where that award came from. This movie is the virtue signal to end all virtue signals. It's got everything a growing Hollywood liberal needs. Minorities, check. LGBTQ, check. Women, check. Men bad, double check. Musical numbers, check, and check. So if it really does check all the boxes, then why are so many members of these marginalized communities it is supposed to represent hate the film so much? I don't know. Don't ask me. Mexican cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto called the movie inauthentic to the Mexican people. You mean Mexico isn't all stabbing, corrupt justice, and cartel bosses with cross-dressing fetishes? Who'd have thought those implications would be offensive? Well, if Mexicans hated the movie, how do you think the LGBTQ community received it? They must have loved it, right? The brave story of a cartel boss that becomes a woman. Music to their ears, right? Well, take a look.
I know about movies, okay? I've seen the good ones, I've seen the bad ones, I've seen the weird ones, I've seen the regular ones.
But have you seen Emilia Perez?
Yeah. I will say this about Emilia Perez, which I have watched twice against my will at this point. I watched it on Christmas. I know we've already talked about this. Watched it on Christmas. I could not believe how spectacularly bad it was. Not bad in a showgirls kind of campy bad way, bad in a boring bad way.
Very boring.
Very, very boring.
You mean to tell me the tiny, tiny audience that this film was made for doesn't even like it? And somehow you got 13 Oscar nominations on top of a Golden Globe? People, I think we're living in the cinematic apocalypse. Pray to the Lumiere brothers that a train will pop out of your TV this very moment and flatten you before we hit rock bottom on this Western decline. Because buckle up, I'm about to unpack this pile of discarded dicks. The plot of this movie goes as such. Emilia Perez falls a down-on-her-luck lawyer by the name of Rita, played by Guardians of the Galaxy actress Zoe Saldana. Rita is an overlooked, overworked, and underpaid assistant to a bumbling, dumb man lawyer who is defending a man who clearly killed his wife. Rita has a crisis of conscience about this for about a second between asking a stranger for a tampon and learning that they won the case. Upon hearing the news, Rita immediately forgets all her objections. Real upstanding moral character we got going here. Real winner. Later, while in the bathroom, Rita receives a call from a mysterious man that wants to meet her. She agrees and begins to sing about her trepidations with the whole arrangement. That's pretty much how these songs occur in this movie. They just come out of nowhere, don't really progress anything. They just kind of happen. And a choir, now, I'm being 100% real, a choir of cleaning ladies are the ones that convince Rita to show up to the clandestine meeting. The cleaning ladies. If I ever take advice from a choir of cleaning ladies, shoot me. Please. Rita gets black bagged outside by a newsstand and rushed out of the city to meet her mysterious caller, which turns out to be the country's most notorious cartel boss, Manitas del Monte. Manitas. I see what you did there, movie. Manny sits in a Sprinter van, and Rita joins him with a black bag still over her head. She calls out, asking if anyone is there, and we get a POV shot, which we can clearly see Manny sitting right in front of her, just staring at Rita. It's pretty clearly. Is she blind? She's stupid? I mean, she must be if she knowingly met with a cartel boss. Who else is going to call like that? James Bond? No, this is clearly a cartel meeting. You're in Mexico. Come on. Like, Rita removes the hood and Manny begins telling her he has a very special job offer for her. Rita wants to know what, but Manny says she must agree to find out. Hearing is accepting. Just let that sit, hanging in there. It'll make sense eventually, I think. Anything? No? Okay. Anyways, hearing is accepting, as Manny puts it, in the strangest, most stilted rap I have ever heard, which also doesn't make any sense. What if she had said no? Like, was he going to kill her? Was he going to drive her awkwardly home and watch her get out like it's a one-night stand or something? This movie has no grasp on logic or how people work or how the world works. Weird that three dudes wrote this, right? Manny offers her $2 million to locate a doctor to help him become a woman. Yeah, you heard me right. What a lawyer has to do with finding doctors, I don't know. Rita asks this very question, and Manny simply responds, "That's why I hired you." That's not an answer. Really getting this woman stuff down already, are you, Manny? You're just not answering a direct question. I've had, let's see, every ex I've ever had has done that, and my current girlfriend. I guess I should just really appreciate Manny's commitment to the bit. Rita informs Manny this is not the kind of life-altering change that can simply happen overnight, and that's when Manny shows Rita his Manny tits.
Empecé el tratamiento hace 2 años.
His Manny boobs. His man boobs. His moobs. Shows him his moobs. And the face that Rita gives him is absolutely priceless. I'm gonna hang that on my wall. Look at that face. She's just thinking, oh my God, so brave. Oh, look at those mammary glands growing out of a man's chest. So brave. It's because Rita's progressive and, she's on the right side of history. And apparently Manny has been on the lady juice for years and is ready to get these surgeries that are necessary to complete his transformation into Emilia. Now from here, Rita goes on a globe-trotting mission to learn about the process of gender reassignment. And where is her first stop? Not Google. Bangkok. Duh. And this is where we get the internet infamous musical number, Le Vaginoplasteria, which translates to the vaginoplasty store. Now, I don't speak Spanish, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Rita ends up in Israel, where she meets a particular kind of doctor, won't say what kind, who, after an awkward musical exchange that reflects nothing about the characters given or the events we've seen, agrees to meet Manny. The strangest part of this whole exchange is the doctor is the first person and only person in this whole film to suggest that maybe horrifically traumatizing surgeries won't make one suddenly happy. Now, from what I understand, that would be considered to be very insulting to a certain group of people. Some might even call it transphobic movie. I'd call it common sense, but nobody asked me. You know, the weird part is this is actually the only position in the entire film that is actually backed by anything in the movie. Brave. Normally, this would be the point where I describe the musical number and do my best to convey the level of cringe, but instead I'm just going to play a clip of it. It's pretty terrible.
Lady, you know I only fixed the body. He's a he, she'll be a he. If he's a she, she'll be a she. Will you please tell your Mr. Mystery, instead of having plastic surgery, he'd better change ID.
The Jewish doctor then flies back to Mexico with Rita to meet Manny, and what follows can only be described as a trans reimagining of the Colonel Kurtz scene from Apocalypse Now. If this movie had killed a bull on screen, it probably would have been less traumatizing than what actually happens. While the doctor and Manny talk in a weird cross-dissolve and dreamlike mirage of conversations, Rita gets introduced to Manny's wife, Jessie, played by the Consuela from Family Guy. Wait, hold on. I'm being told that's Selena Gomez. That can't be right. The wall hit her like a fucking bag of bricks. Anyways, the doctor agrees to perform the surgeries, and Manny enacts his plan. Rita sends Manny's wife and children to Switzerland, and Manny disappears. Not long later, Manny's family gets news that Manny had been captured by a rival cartel and promptly executed. Oh no, whatever shall they do with all his money? But instead, Manny wakes up looking like the invisible trans in a hospital, practicing her new name over and over again. Now, this is a part where there's a number of weird scenes in this movie, but this has probably the most disturbing scene where Emilia is laying in a bed, looking at her bandages on her face with a little hand mirror compact thing. And, well, then she decides to use the hand mirror to look at her freshly formed vagina. And then she starts crying. I'd probably cry too. But for completely different reasons. And here's where we move the clock forward 3 years. 4 years, 3 years, who cares a shit? And catch up with Rita, spending time in London. Now with her swanky new lifestyle, she's all hip, you know, doing all that shit. And she's at this very swanky dinner with friends when the camera pans over to reveal Patrick Warburton in a dress. I can't believe this is a real movie. She strikes up a conversation with Rita. They find out they're both from Mexico. Who would have guessed? And of course, they hit it off. And it takes Rita about 5 fucking minutes to realize the woman she's actually talking to is none other than now known as Emilia Perez. I don't know how she didn't really, like, the voice literally was like, "You're so pretty. Are you from England?" No, I'm from Mexico. "Oh, I just thought you were from England because you're so pretty." I mean, that may not be exactly how it happened, but that's definitely how I remember it. Rita understandably thinks that Emilia is there to kill her, but Emilia confides that she is actually there to reconnect with her children that she so sorely misses, and wants Rita's help to do so. So Rita fetches the family back from Switzerland, where apparently it snows nonstop, and they all move in with Emilia under the guise of a long-lost aunt, Auntie Emilia, or something. I don't know. Maybe it's his aunt, like it's supposed to be Manita's aunt, or is it Manita's sister? I don't know. I don't care. Now, this next part is a part that a lot of people have commented on. Everyone has said this, okay? I am not breaking any new ground, but this is the only way to accurately describe the next 15 to 20 minutes of this movie. And that is by calling it the weirdest reimagining of Mrs. Doubtfire you will ever see. And that's not an exaggeration. That's pretty much what happens. Now, Media's widow, Jessie, is having a hard time readjusting. And an even harder time sounding like she speaks Spanish. I've heard gringos with better accents. How did this woman become a pop star again? Shit, how did they let her act? Anyways, Jessie, now back in Mexico, reconnects with her long-lost ex-boyfriend, Gustavo. And leaves him the creepiest voicemail I've ever heard a woman leave.
Hasta me duele la pinche vulva nada más de acordarme de ti.
There you go, boys. Leave them away. This is why women are all so horny. If you don't get them laid, their brains start eating themselves from the inside. And then they become this goofy chica. Now we get back to Rita and Emilia. And where the plot lily walks up to the two of them and hands them a flyer. I'm not even kidding. That's what happens. They're in a cafe talking, and a woman literally comes up and goes, "You seen my missing son? Here's a flyer." See, after the transition and getting her kids back, Emilia suddenly found herself rudderless. So she's looking for something to give her purpose. And that's literally when an old lady hands her a flyer about her missing son. And Emilia has a thought. Ding! Hey, I made a lot of people go missing. What if I find them? So her and Rita decide to open an NGO using her blood money to find the missing victims of all the cartels. Yeah, that's right. It's like if Jeffrey Dahmer was like, "I'll find all those missing boys." You dumbass. Her and Rita open an NGO, the sole mission of finding all the missing victims of the cartel members. Now, it's funded by Emilia's money she made as a cartel boss, but, we'll never mind that for now. I don't think the filmmakers thought this through at all. Who directed this piece of shit? Jacques Audouard. A French guy. Okay. And he co-wrote it. No wonder this movie is fucked. What the hell is a renegade auteur? Anyways, a good chunk of this next part of the movie is dedicated to making you feel really, really sad for all the families of people who've lost their loved ones to cartel members. Now, Emilia doesn't ever get a point where she has an epiphany and realizes her guilt and culpability and all this. No, we just have a lot of people standing in line and singing about how they really miss their son or brother or whatever. It's really weird. It's like the movie's saying that Manny was bad, but Emilia is good. And it feels like the movie doesn't understand that they're the same person. It kind of feels like Emilia doesn't understand that they're the same person. This movie's messaging is all over the fucking place. It's as confused about what it is or what it is trying to say as we are watching it. First, it tells us Manly brutally wiped out a rival cartel to be #1 in the drug business, but then later tells us after he got fake tits, none of that counts or matters anymore. What are we trying to say about trans people, movie? Are you saying they are self-serving, confused, morally bankrupt individuals that are being trans so they could shield themselves against all the awful things they've done or do or think? It's really fucked up, movie. You should be ashamed of yourself. This is some pretty shitty representation. Quite honestly, this is all pretty offensive. I mean, not to me. I don't care. But I'm sure it's offensive to, 0.3% of the population. And soon comes the most fucked up part of this movie. Emilia meets a widow of a man that she had presumably had murdered in her office one day. The office had called and told her that they had information on her dead husband. And when she shows up, she's wielding a steak knife, for some reason expecting to find her husband. This NGO has been widely publicized, and they only do one thing. They don't find living missing people. That's what the cops are for. This character is already being set up as a moron. which will be solidified in our minds when she begins slamming clams with Emilia here in a minute. So Emilia finds her new love in the widow of what is probably one of her victims. But since she ain't Manny no more, she doesn't have to feel an ounce of guilt. What Emilia feels is emptiness. Even after a long song and an unimaginative love ballad between the two, Emilia still finds herself no less split than she did before becoming a woman. Wait, movie, are you trying to tell us that becoming trans doesn't fix anything? Is the movie agree with the Jewish doctor? I mean, the nondescript, Middle Easternly descended doctor? I feel like my brain is collapsing into a supernova right now. You went so progressive, you end up based. Now, this is the part where it has one of the funniest shots in the whole movie. During this little love duet with Emilia and her not lesbian lover. I don't know. I'm so confused. The widow has her hand on the table. They're sitting there, and Emilia's singing, and the widow's singing, and it's dumb. And there's a close up of the widow's hand, and one of the shoes from Ants, like a shadow, comes over the hand. Kind of like it kind of looked like in the beginning of Star Wars when you had that little tiny ship and the big ship comes over it. It was like that, but with fake nails. It looked like a baseball mitt with fake nails glued on. Good Lord, you can't bolt fake tits on that. The only thing she's passing is a palm basketball. You can tell she's right-handed. I heard she can open the jar first try every time. Okay, that's not. Sorry. And just one hand in that jar, just okay. Well, Emilia isn't the only one falling in love. Jessie, her ex-wife, has also fallen for the grittily handsome Gustav. And they do this awkward karaoke number together about how they're in love. It's kind of upsetting, mainly just because of Selena Gomez's terrible singing. And Gustavo could do so much better than that 30-year-old abuela. Good Lord. Anyways, Jessie comes home and happily announces to Emilia that she's getting married, and her and Gustavo are taking the kids and they're moving away. This sends Emilia into a blind rage where she chokes her and goes all, "It's ma'am," while telling her that she's not taking her kids anyway. Emilia has some of her old cartel goons beat up Gustavo and give him a bunch of money to leave town for good, which she thinks is going to work until suddenly Jessie and the kids are just gone. You were literally on the phone yelling at Rita, "Get my fucking people down here, you get my kids back now, I'll kill every single one of you." They really don't understand how horrible of a person Emilia is. Now, all this pisses off Emilia, and she begins to revert to her former persona of Manitas, demanding Rita goes to any and all measures to bring her kids back. While Rita scrambles to locate Manny's widow and his children, Emilia is abducted off screen. Why? Who's to say? Rita just gets a call, emotional music plays, cops are there, the lesbian widow is there, but Emilia's gone. Well, until Rita gets a package with a couple of the meatiest fingers you've ever seen in a newspaper and a call from the kidnappers, who quickly make their demands and somehow telepathically tell Rita where they're supposed to meet. It's never actually mentioned. She just gets out the phone and knows where to go. Rita calls a bullish-looking lesbian, and they assemble a team of gunmen to retrieve Emilia unharmed. So they set up an ambush and go meet the kidnappers, who turn out to be none other than Jessie and her boyfriend, Gustavo. Oh my God, who could have ever seen this coming? Rita tries to create a distraction with a fake money exchange, but Gustavo sees Rita's goons coming early, and it all becomes an all-out gunfight. Emilia gets tagged in the exchange. For a moment, we think she's dead, till she wakes up and Emilia confesses everything to Jessie. That's right. She just lays it right on her. Hey, guess what? I'm actually Manny. Here's a memory that only you and I would have, where I creeped on you as you were a 17-year-old girl, and I creeped on you while I was also married. Again, I don't know what this movie's trying to say about trans people. I mean, I know what it's saying. I just know I can't say it on YouTube without fear of my channel getting nuked like I started World War II. I mean, it kind of looks like this movie's saying Manny's a predator. Kind of. Statutory, at the very least. I think you're going a little too far, movie. There are no evidence or implications of any kind, or countless films, books, magazines, comic books, or biographical accounts of any kind of predatory behavior in the trans community or the gay community. That's not a thing. Stop trying to make me into a bigot movie. I see what you're doing, and I don't like it. Now, before Jessie has time to process all of this, or the realization that her dead husband is now alive, but now her wife, Gustavo throws Emilia into the trunk of his car and sweeps Jessie away to the escape. Right? They drive off into the night. But overcome by emotion, Jessie pulls a gun on Gustavo, the one driving, and this leads to a struggle where a couple of shots are fired, and the car veers off the road and off a cliff, crashing below, killing all three. That's right. They're all dead. Thank God. And of course, Rita arrives just in time to see the car engulfed by a fireball. So what does Rita do? Well, obviously she adopts Emilia's kids, who she had no relationship at all with, and holds a parade in Emilia's honor where a giant, awkward puppet of Emilia leads the whole procession. What did you think was going to happen? You smell that? It smells like a movie huffing its own farts. They literally made a statue of Emilia like she was the Virgin Mother or something. Like, could a movie have its head up its own ass any further? I don't think so. This movie takes itself so seriously while delivering some of the funniest lines and most unironic, self-aware lines you've ever heard. The movie has its head planted so firmly up its own ass that it completely fails to see that the people it's supposed to be representing, it's making a complete and utter mockery of. Mexico is relegated to an impoverished country full of thieves, murderers, and corrupt officials at literally every turn. Rita is shown dancing in the dirty streets as she prepares her incompetent boss's closing arguments, while a man is literally being stabbed just feet behind her, while no one does anything. The only point of view of Mexico you get in this film is a country full of ghettos and desert cartel parties, and not much else beyond that. The people are portrayed as mostly sheepish peasants who are too dumb to even know when someone is digging up their own victims for social clout. And apparently, they're also too dumb to realize that this woman with the broadest shoulders ever known to man is in fact a repurposed male. A fact that very few people in the criminal underworld would care for all too much. We're supposed to believe that Manny faked his death to get away from these people, but the moment he has a brand new NGO and a brand new Barbie pocket, the cartels are just cool with him to the tune of millions of dollars in donations? Not one boss figured out that Emilia was actually Manny. Really? Is this a country of blind people? And let's not even go into what this movie is implying about trans people. Let's just say if I stated the implications here, my YouTube channel would be gone faster than, well, cartel boss's penis. This movie shows us Manny is a horrific human being with a history of murder and human trafficking and drug trafficking, but then acts like once his name is Emilia, none of his sins count anymore and are magically forgiven in a wash of hormonal therapy. And then on top of all that, the story gives Emilia a brand new lover in the form of the widow of one of her victims. So not only is Emilia a good person now, but she gets rewarded for her good deeds in the form of a new lover? I don't know what this movie is trying to say about life. The characters in this film constantly demonstrate how morally bankrupt they are in stark contrast to how the movie presents them as good people in a bad world. Rita, a down on her luck lawyer, suddenly gets the offer of a lifetime by a cartel member. Both of these people are awful human beings enabling each other. What lesson am I supposed to glean from this? Be terrible and find more terrible people to help me be terrible? Emilia literally abandons her kids to get the sex change operation, and only years later to change her mind and uproot her family all over again to move them back to Mexico from Switzerland. The characters doing things in this film without the film understanding the implications or consequences, and it casts moral judgments that are not at all supported by what we are shown or by what the characters do or say. It's like it was written with no forethought to where the movie was going or any memory of where it had just been. Scenes are disjointed, the songs are stiff and ham-fistedly performed, the editing is all over the place, the accents aren't even right, and the plot can't seem to make up its mind about what the plot actually is. This movie is an overall mess. And honestly, it's kind of why I love it. I hate musicals and socially conscious dramas, and without even meaning to, it perfectly lampoons both subgenres. They wanted the songs to feel authentic, so they hired people who couldn't sing. The director wanted a gritty Mexico, but couldn't find a suitable location, so he filmed in France. They wanted you to relate to the main character, so they made him a transgender cartel boss mass murderer who orphans his own children. The most relatable demographic on the planet, people. Hell, this movie even threw a Jewish doctor in just for good measure. If I had written this exact movie, word for word, I would have pitched it as an absurd comedy and been kicked out of the boardroom for being such an absurd asshole. Sad part is, it probably would have made more money. This movie went so hard in the paint on a social issue most people don't even want to think about that it ended up becoming a parody of itself and making a complete joke out of everything and everyone in the process. And this is the movie winning awards. But I will give the lead actress, Karla Sofia Gascon, some points. She's getting the ruin everything part of being a woman down really well. Because just after 13 Oscar nominations were announced, old tweets of Karla's began resurfacing. And well, let's just say Karla had a few choice opinions about Muslims that the media didn't care for all that much. How many more times will we have to expel the Moors from Spain? How many times will we have to expel these madmen from Europe until we realize their religion is incompatible with Western values? Islam is becoming a hotbed of infection for humanity that urgently needs to be cured. Karla? Do you know what side you're on? Liberals are supposed to want more brown people, not less. Did no one give Karla the talking points? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. She didn't just go through all these surgeries and award ceremonies just to have it all taken away now. Now she has come out and apologized. The one thing the Academy can't stand to be associated with are racists. So will Karla's Oscars get ripped from her? I don't think so. Hollywood, it's all about them virtue points. So really, it could go either way at this point. I guess it really depends on how viral these tweets go. And also several were from when she was still a man. So she could pull the Emilia Perez defense and say it was all Manny. That ought to stump her stupid red carpet colleagues. Now, I don't care about the Oscars. Hell, give the damn movie all the awards. The more awards, the funnier. I hope Vaginoplasteria, or whatever the name of the song is, gets Best Song of the Year. Hollywood deserves every bit of scorn and mockery it gets. They've spent far too long with their heads up their butts. It's time they come out and taste some fresh air. But in the end, this isn't going to be a movie that makes many waves beyond the YouTubers that make videos on it. Normal people aren't going to watch this movie. Hell, members of the Academy aren't even going to watch this movie. They've said so themselves. They just check boxes that look good. And, well, a box with a trans woman in it, to them, looks pretty good. I want to say this movie marks the cinematic end times, but to be fair, France has always made really perverted, weird, disjointed, completely disconnected from reality movies. Like, have you ever watched any of the French New Wave? It's retarded. And they've been doing this for about 80 years. Do you remember the movie Cuties? France. And the Academy has always been about Hollywood giving themselves gold stars every year for being what they consider good people, while also simultaneously being part of some of the most dark, disturbing, and illegal circles known to man. Not naming any names, Leo. So, when it comes to what movie is going to be their best picture pick of the year, I'd say it's pretty likely it's going to be this. Well, like, honestly, what was the last movie you thought actually deserved best picture? Return of the King? I mean, Oppenheimer was good last year, but I don't know if it was best picture worthy. All in all, I think Hollywood's cooked, and it has been for some time. And you know what? We're just here to watch it burn away to ashes. Anyways, later, y'all.